Welcome back to Let's Make a Game, a channel about making computer role-playing games using the free program Twine and the Sugarcube format for Twine. In this video, I would like to continue talking about my current project of coding the combat system for a viewer's game. More specifically, we've been adding weapons, some of which have some new mechanics based on a document that the person whose game this is going to be has sent me, which has a sort of updated version of the weapon list. So as you can see, I've started a combat and it's my go, the player character's go. And if I choose inventory, you can see that I have among other options, a bucket and a katana. And as usual, I could equip that to my offhand. I could equip the katana to my main hand. And of course I could use the ones that we've already talked about, the chainsaw and the knife. And if I was to restart it, we'd get probably at least one of a number of other new weapons that I've added. If I equip the bucket, that will be my go, because I only have one action left. But if we click through until it's my turn again, we should see that I have the option of throwing the bucket, and that if I do choose to throw it, it will, as you would expect, it will sort of persist. It will still be there in the environment, and theoretically I could go pick it up again. So let's have a look at that. Yep, I won the initiative. So yes, we can see that I have a throw as an option there. I might want to throw it at, let's say, enemy 6, for example. And yep, I did pretty good. Did as best as I can with, as you might expect, a bucket is not the best weapon. These are meant to be sort of, apart from the katana, they're meant to be sort of improvised weapons. But anyway, it hit and it did some damage, and you can see that it is there. So theoretically I could, if I cleared that space, I could get in there and pick it up and do the same thing again. So that's what I've done. Now I want to show you how I've done it. Well, it's actually quite easy because we don't have any special mechanics with this. They're all using mechanics that we've already dealt with. Let's zoom in a little bit. And all the changes are in initialize. Now, if you've been following this series, you'll remember that the weapon stuff is mostly recorded in two arrays, WEA_OVR, which stands for Weapon Overview, and WEA_ATT, which gives the details of the different attacks that you can do with the weapons. Because usually there's two. Most weapons have two attacks. There are a few that only have one. The chainsaw only has one. The grenades don't have any attack other than that you throw them, of course. And because the code that we've made doesn't depend on there being a certain number of weapons, or on the weapons being in any order, if we want to add more weapons, we can just sort of add them at the end. So let's have a look at this as an example. The improvised weapons, the bamboo, bike chain, bucket, durian, garden hoe, hammer, rice bag, and wok, they're all mechanically identical, actually, and they also have the same little caption or description, the better than nothing, you guess. But the katana is separate. So let's go through what we have. Well, first of all, we have the name of it. It's a katana. Then you have the little description thing or some sort of text about the weapon. And then we have the two things that are mechanically important, which are how many ways are there to attack with this weapon, and there's one or two for all the weapons thus far. Although there could be more, there's nothing in the code that stops there being more. And then, is it one or two-handed? A katana is considered to be two-handed. All of these improvised weapons have two different ways to attack, and they're all one-handed. I should say I don't know what a durian is. I thought a durian was a sort of fruit. But I mean, maybe that's right, and maybe it's sort of hard enough that you can bash someone with it. But anyway, the others I recognise, but yeah, I don't know what a durian is. Obviously, a rice bag. I guess that's sort of hefty enough that you can sort of, you know, use it sort of like a club or a sap, I suppose, is what's happening in the fiction of the game. You might think that these sort of improvised weapons would be more likely to break, but we haven't coded that yet, if that is the intention. Or we might just go, well, I mean, maybe not a bike chain. I think that would be okay, but like a bag of rice, you would think that if you whack someone with it a couple of times, it's probably going to split open and not be sort of useful as a weapon. But thus far, that hasn't happened. We haven't coded it. So once we've done the name and the number of attacks and the handedness, we then need to go down to weapon attack and detail the attacks. And we need to make the index of the attack some text, so it's in single quotes, not double quotes, and we have to have the name of the weapon exactly as we have it up here. So the capital letters have to be in the same place, and if there's a space up here, we have to have a space down here, not a dash. And, you know, there's some things that you can spell a couple of different ways, and we have to make sure we do the same thing. And then a space, and then 1, and then if we have the second attack, it's the same, except it's a space and then 2, and if there was ever a third attack, it would be 3, and so on. And then we put the details, which are the name of the attack first. So katana, we can slash or stab. Then we have the maximum range, which is 0, 1, or 2, but 0 means 1 range band, 0 means 1 range band, 1 means 3 range bands, and 2 means 5 range bands. So we multiply that number by 2 and add 1. Somewhat surprisingly to me, a katana has a sort of long range attack. A stabbing with a katana, you can actually do it up to 3 range bands. Maybe that's because it's considered to be really long. I'm not really sure. I don't think we ever specify how much range, like how big a range band is. I don't think we ever said, oh, it's X number of meters. But given that you can throw a grenade and the explosion doesn't hurt you, that assumes that it's fairly long. So I don't know what's that. Maybe it like gives you, maybe we're sort of being a little bit unrealistic in saying you're doing a big sort of anime leap or something like that. But anyway, that was what they specified. So you have the range, you have the damage add, and then you have whether they use up ammunition, or whether they're thrown, or whether you're striking with it and it doesn't use it up. The katana, it's fairly straightforward. You don't use it up. You're stabbing with it or slashing with it, so you obviously still have a katana at the end of that. All of the improvised weapons have hit and throw. They all have a damage out of 1. If you remember the videos we did on combat, it's 1 plus the relevant attribute. So 1 plus strong or 1 plus sneaky, depending on whether you're doing a hand-to-hand type of attack or a throwing type of attack. All of the improvised weapons, if you throw them there, this type 4 attack where you are throwing the weapon, you don't have the weapon anymore, but the weapon is in the environment, and in theory you can pick it up again. And that's how we do that. We just had to, I actually literally copied and pasted these because mechanically they're all the same. They're just it's just sort of different flavor as to whether you're using a bucket or a bike chain or a hammer or a, whatever. And then I just cut and paste them and then put in the names of the weapons, making sure that I was, spelling it the same as per here. And when we deal with the the sort of the array as a whole, the WEA underscore OVR array as a whole. We don't ever deal with weapon attacks as a whole, because when we're looking in WEA underscore ATT, we already know what weapon we're looking at and what attack is being made. So we're only ever looking in one. But there's some parts of the code where we look at WEA underscore OVR as a whole, and that's when we're setting up the inventory, because we want a random weapon. And what we do is we use this dot length. I suppose it's part of a command. Dot length gives you the number of slots that are in use of the array, counting from 0, because by default they count from 0. And I like to count from 1 because I find counting from 0 a bit counterintuitive. We use -1, but and the consequence of that is I can just add weapons to WEA underscore OVR and it'll still work, because the length is based on how many slots there are. Whereas if I had a set number, I'd have to remember to change that number based on what I'd done updating the weapons, which of course, creates a little bit more work, but more importantly creates the possibility of mistakes. And you should always minimize the amount of stuff you have to do, maximize the amount of stuff the computer does, even if it's a little bit convoluted in the programming. But it helps, because it means that it will get it right. Once you create an algorithm that works, the computer will always do it properly. Whereas you, a human, will only do it properly 99 times out of 100, sort of thing. That's why I have these quite long, instead of, let's go back to WEA underscore OVR. We have these slots that are not based on data that I typed in. They're based on a little algorithm. It's set to 1 if this weapon uses ammunition. This is not in the initial data, but is set up in the passage ammunition. And we have a similar one, which is set to 1 if the weapon has at least 1 hand-to-hand attack and at least 1 throwing attack. And it would have been easy enough to do that myself. To look at that, it's easy enough to know that. But it is better to set it up with code, because once I get the code to do it properly, it will always get it right. Even though it adds a bit of space to the program, and it took me a bit of time to set this stuff up, it means that that's one avenue of making a mistake that that's been closed off. That's one way that I can't stuff it up, sort of thing. And that, I think, is good. It might seem like it's sort of, you've got 2 passages when you could just type in a few numbers, but yes, but it does have a value. It saves, it saves the possibility of mistakes, sort of thing, and therefore saves me time trying to go back and fix those mistakes. So in the end, maybe it did save me time. Anyway, that's what I've done. I'm going to continue to work through the document that I've been sent, which has the new weapons. I still have to do the fixing the skill rolls for the non-player character only personas, but I'll do that as soon as I can. I will leave it there for now. I hope that was useful or interesting to at least some of you, and I hope you will tune in next time.